Welcome to this definitive analysis. Over the past 5 explainers, we've measured Paraguayan military genius against some of history's most famous foreign commanders. But today we're doing something completely different. We're turning the mirror inward.
That's right. Today we're using rigorous internal analytical criteria to compare 2 brilliant Paraguayan commanders who achieved what frankly seemed like impossible victories, General José Ederiges Diaz and Marshal José Felix Estigarribia. And let's be absolutely clear from the jump. There is zero nationalistic hagiography going on here. This is a strictly objective, high-level academic debate to determine the true nature of military genius.
To tackle this challenge, we're following a strict dialectical structure. We'll quickly outline the final analytical challenge, establish our Clausewitzian framework, examine geography as a weapon, and then dive right into the core debate, tactics versus strategy. We'll even run a counterfactual experiment before finally delivering the Clausewitzian verdict.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the final analytical challenge, looking at this internal comparison.
So, unlike our previous explainers, this is, hands down, the hardest comparison we've done. Why? Because both men operated under severe material inferiority, and remarkably, both won. We don't have a simple underdog narrative to lean on here. Exactly. What we do have is an absolute contrast in their domains of mastery. You have General Diaz representing pure tactical brilliance, matched up against Marshal Estigarribia, the absolute master of strategic architecture. The central question of this entire debate is, between these two completely opposing paradigms of leadership, who truly fits the definition of the complete general?
Which brings us to Section 2, the Clausewitzian framework, where we pit tactics against strategy.
We are anchoring this debate in a fundamental distinction made by the military theorist Karl von Clausewitz, the difference between winning engagements and actually winning the war. I'm going to argue for Diaz through a crucial concept, coup d'oeil, or the stroke of the eye. It's that instinctive, real-time tactical read of the battlefield. Diaz had absolute mastery of this. He possessed a situational genius to grasp fleeting advantages in terrain and timing, applying perfect tactical violence exactly where and when it was needed most.
That's a fair point, but to counter that, we have to evaluate Estigarribia through a different Clausewitzian lens, the Schwerpunkt, or center of gravity. We're talking about the hub of all enemy power. A true strategic architect doesn't just react to the battlefield. He identifies the enemy's Schwerpunkt and directs all his energy to dismantle the adversary's very capacity to make war. That was Estigarribia's hallmark, and it's a completely different level of command.
Moving on to Section 3, geography as a weapon.
To really understand these two commanders, you have to understand their operational environments. Neither of them treated geography as just some passive backdrop. They literally turned it into their primary weapon.
Absolutely. In the Esteros, the suffocating mud, the rivers, and the dense vegetation of the War of the Triple Alliance fundamentally shaped Diaz's tactical defense. It allowed him to bottleneck massive invading forces.
Meanwhile, in the Chaco, you have extreme heat, a terrifying lack of water, and wide-open plains. That environment defined Estigarribia's logistical and operational logic. The terrain didn't just influence them, it was the foundation of their entire doctrine.
Section 4, tactics versus strategy. This is the core debate.
Here's where we pit Diaz's battle-level command directly against Estigarribia's campaign-level design. Take Curubapati. Diaz used the terrain as a massive force multiplier. His flawless real-time read of the battlefield, combined with his visceral frontline command, drove unmatched unit cohesion. When you execute perfect tactical violence with that kind of precision, you can literally shatter a vastly superior invading force. Diaz wasn't just a commander. He was the beating heart of his army, right there on the firing line.
I hear you, but we need to apply some intellectual friction here. Did Diaz actually possess campaign-level strategic thinking? Or was his genius exclusively situational and reactive? We really have to ask if his incredible tactical brilliance had a hard ceiling when it came to a long-term strategic vision for winning the war as a whole.
In stark contrast, Estigarribia's strategic architecture relied on a cold, calculated political military coherence. Instead of just fighting isolated battles, he orchestrated a deliberate sequential design, from Boquerón all the way to Campo Villa. Instead of attacking the Bolivian military strength head-on, he targeted their logistical water supply. And crucially, he successfully managed the Clausewitzian trinity, balancing the passion of the people, the chance of the army, and the reason of the government, sustaining it over 3 grueling years.
Okay, but the counter-argument is just as valid, and we can't ignore it. Was Estigarribia a less gifted battlefield tactician than Diaz? Did his brilliant, detached strategic design come at the cost of that raw, frontline tactical instinct that Diaz wielded so effectively?
Did Estigarribia rely too heavily on his subordinates to execute the tactical violence that a general like Diaz would have just handled personally?
Fair point. Let's move to Section 5, the counterfactual experiment. What happens if we swap their wars?
We're going to test the absolute limits of their respective doctrines. What would actually happen if Diaz and Estigarribia swapped conflicts? This isn't just a fun thought experiment, it's a rigorous way to evaluate how their distinct leadership styles would fare in completely alien operational contexts.
Picture Diaz in the Chaco. With his mind hyper-focused on tactics, could he have sustained 3 years of strategic coherence across multiple simultaneous theaters? Or would he have worn his forces down, winning localized engagements with no clear end goal? On the flip side, imagine Estigarribia in the War of the Triple Alliance. Given the severe political constraints of the 1860s, could his brilliant strategic mind have found a negotiated exit before the impending demographic catastrophe? Or was the political reality simply too rigid, even for a complete strategic architect?
Which brings us to our final section, the Clausewitzian verdict. Who is the complete general?
It's time to score both commanders against Clausewitz's definitive criteria. When it comes to tactical mastery and managing immediate violent friction, Diaz reigns supreme. His localized, visceral control is absolutely unmatched.
But look at strategic coherence and political military alignment. Here, Estigarribia demonstrates total dominance. He deeply understood that military means must be flawlessly subordinated to political ends to actually conclude a war successfully.
And that brings us to the ultimate finding of this entire 6-part series. It's a profound realization.
It truly is. Over these 6 explainers, we've seen that Paraguayan military genius is forged in absolute material deficit. It demands either perfect tactical violence to survive the moment or flawless strategic pacing to outlast the war.
So we leave this precise question open to you. Between the absolute master of the battlefield and the visionary architect of the campaign, who truly satisfies the standard of the complete general? The evidence has been laid out. The debate is now yours.
Thank you for joining us throughout this entire explainer series.
And as always, keep questioning what you know.